Hello everybody, this is Mike and Abbott with Christians Deceived and another Bible study lesson. This week, Lesson 5, Looking for Jesus. As we walk around today, what would happen if suddenly we saw Jesus? What would we do? Would we, as we look at this week's lesson, which is based on Mark chapter 1, verses 32 through 45, the people had a definite expectation of Jesus Christ. They sought Him out, especially as we look at these verses, for the miracles of Jesus Christ, for the sick, the lame, the demon-possessed, to experience a miracle, to be changed, to be freed from the burden, whatever that burden may be. They were looking for Jesus. One of the things we have to ask ourselves, what are our expectations? Are we looking for Jesus? If we find Him, what are our expectations? Do we still revere Him and gather in His presence, looking to Him for blessings? Or has our faith grown complacent over time, lacking the flame that it once has? Has that burned out? So now let's take a look at these verses and see what Jesus has in store for us. First section we will look at is Jesus heals, and that's Mark chapter 1, verses 32 through 34. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons. But He would not let the demons speak because they knew who He was. Alright, so we see it's after a Sabbath. The people are now able to bring their sick and demon-possessed to Jesus. They are now free to bring them and lay them at the feet of Jesus. They are desperate. And this desperation that they have for their loved ones or for themselves leads them to faith. That faith leads to deliverance. Do we today bring our burdens to Jesus, our cares, our concerns? Do we bring ourselves to Him, our loved ones? Do we go to Him first, or do we turn to Jesus Christ last? Is it the last thing we turn to is to turn to Jesus? You know, we can reflect back on the things that happened with 9/11 even, and look at you know, for that 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11, how we as a people in America had once again turned back to Jesus. You know, the news talked about how, you know, the streets on Sundays had suddenly changed to where they were not so full anymore because people were parked at the churches. Attendance went through the roof through all denominations throughout this country for about a 2 to 3 week period. We remember turning yet again to Jesus in our time of despair, but is it that last hope we look for is to turn to Jesus, or do we make Him the first place we go when we find ourselves in desperation and need? It says here the whole town gathered. Of course, we know that not the whole town, but there were probably a pretty good number of folks, and probably a pretty good sized crowd. It gives us a sense of what was going on in this particular town, in this city, the sense of desperation, and the expectation that those people had of Jesus Christ and what was about to take place. In verse 34, and He healed them of various diseases. He drove out demons, and something interesting here. It says He did not allow the demons to speak about who He was. They knew who He was. The demons recognized Jesus Christ. And He quietens the demons. But it's kind of, it's kind of hard to understand. Didn't Jesus come so that everybody would know about Jesus Christ? But Jesus has a plan. There is a plan here. And maybe He's trying to, at this point, control the craziness that's starting to result as a result of all that's taking place. Does He want His fame to go so far ahead of Him that his purpose is hindered in any way. I think that's the case. I think he has I think his timing was such that he knew exactly when he wanted his message fully exposed. All right, next we have Jesus prays. We see at this point in verses 35 that Jesus once again seeks out the Father. And we talked about that in the previous lessons, how Jesus finds that quiet place, and when he's going to make a decision, when he's dealing with things, he turns first to the Father.